The worst wedding deaths ever recorded. A wedding day is supposed to be one of the happiest, most memorable days of a person's life. It's a celebration of love, a union of two families, and the start of a brand new chapter. But what happens when that celebration turns into an unimaginable tragedy? Today, we're going to explore some of the most heartbreaking and shocking stories of wedding celebrations that ended in the worst way possible. These aren't just accidents. They're catastrophic events that turned a day of joy into a day of profound mourning. Let's start with a story that feels like it's straight out of a horror movie. In 2017, a wedding in Sanliyefa, Turkey, was tragically cut short. During the celebration, a guest who had been drinking heavily decided to fire his Kalashnikov rifle into the air, a dangerous and unfortunately not uncommon practice in some parts of the world. But this time, the celebratory gunfire had devastating consequences. The man lost control of the weapon, and the bullets sprayed into the crowd. The groom's father, his two aunts, and another guest were killed instantly. Several others were injured. The groom himself was among the wounded. Imagine the scene. Music, dancing, laughter one moment, and then sudden, violent chaos. The day that was meant to symbolize the start of his new family ended with him losing so many loved ones. Another case that captured international attention happened in Brazil. In 2016, a bride named Rosemir do Nascimento Silva wanted to surprise her fiancé Damasceno in the most spectacular way possible. She planned to arrive at her own wedding ceremony in a helicopter. She, along with her brother, the wedding photographer, who was 6 months pregnant, and the pilot, boarded the aircraft. The groom waited at the altar, completely unaware of the grand entrance his bride had planned. But the helicopter never arrived. On its way to the venue, just a few miles from the wedding site, the helicopter crashed. Tragically, all 4 people on board were killed. The news reached the wedding guests and the groom, turning a scene of hopeful anticipation into one of utter shock and grief. The man who was moments away from marrying the love of his life was instead faced with planning her funeral. Sometimes, the danger comes not from a single act, but from the celebration itself getting out of control. In 2023, a horrific fire engulfed a wedding hall in the Karakosh district of Hamdanya in Iraq. The celebration was in full swing, with hundreds of guests celebrating the bride and groom, Hanan and Revan. As the couple shared their first dance, pyrotechnic machines were set off, shooting sparks up to the ceiling. The ceiling, decorated with highly flammable materials, ignited almost instantly. Panic erupted as burning debris rained down on the guests. The hall had only one main exit, and a stampede ensued as people desperately tried to escape the inferno. Over 100 people, including the bride's father and 10 other members of her family, lost their lives. The bride and groom managed to escape, but they were left with a loss so immense it's hard to comprehend. In an interview, the groom Revan said, "Our happiness is gone. We are dead inside." Let's move to a different kind of tragedy, one that highlights how quickly a joyful moment can turn deadly on the road. In 2012, in the town of Anantapur, India, a wedding party was traveling in a procession. They were in a large truck, celebrating with music and dancing as they made their way to the groom's village after the ceremony. The mood was ecstatic, but then disaster struck. An exposed high-voltage power line was hanging low over the road. The truck, filled with people, drove directly into it. The electrical current was immediate and devastating. At least 16 people, including the groom and several children, were killed by electrocution. What was supposed to be a triumphant journey home became a scene of mass casualty, all because of a hazard that no one saw until it was too late. Even the environment of a wedding can pose an unforeseen threat. In 2001, the Versailles Wedding Hall in Jerusalem was hosting a large wedding with over 600 guests. The hall was located on the 3rd floor of a building. As the guests danced and celebrated, a significant portion of the floor suddenly gave way. The dancers plummeted 3 stories down. The collapse was later attributed to a combination of faulty construction and recent renovations that had weakened the structure. The result was catastrophic. 23 people were killed and over 380 were injured. Rescuers worked for days to pull people from the rubble. The groom himself suffered serious injuries, and the bride's 80-year-old grandfather was among those who died. This incident was so severe that it led to a national conversation in Israel about building safety standards. The engineer responsible for the design was eventually sentenced to prison. Sometimes, A single, reckless decision by one person can cause a chain reaction of tragedy. In Yemen, in 2015, another case of celebratory gunfire went horribly wrong, and this one was caught on video, making it even more chilling. During a wedding, a guest started dancing with an AK-47. While trying to perform a dance move, he accidentally fired the weapon into a group of other guests. The initial shots caused panic, and in the confusion, another guest, who was also armed, seemed to react by firing his own weapon. It was a chaotic and deadly crossfire. 2 people were killed, and several more were injured. The joyous music was instantly replaced by screams. The video of the incident serves as a grim reminder of the dangers of mixing firearms with large, crowded celebrations. Let us go back to the United States for a story that combines a freak accident with a beautiful, natural setting. In 2013, a couple decided to get married at White Ear Spend Park in California. They were posing for wedding photos with their bridal party under a large, beautiful eucalyptus tree. It was the perfect backdrop. But without any warning, a massive, 100-foot branch from the tree snapped and came crashing down on top of them. The bride's mother was killed, and several other family members, including a 4-year-old flower girl, were critically injured. The tree was old, and it was later determined that a prolonged drought had weakened it, making it unstable. A picture-perfect moment turned into a scene of horror, all because of an act of nature that no one could have predicted. Finally, we have a story from Russia that shows how a wedding celebration can spill out into public with fatal consequences. In 2017, a wedding motorcade was speeding through Moscow. The guests were leaning out of car windows, waving flags, and creating a spectacle. This kind of reckless driving is unfortunately seen in some wedding processions. As the motorcade sped through an intersection, one of the cars, a Bentley, ran a red light and slammed into a city bus. The impact was enormous. The driver of the Bentley was killed, along with a passenger. Multiple people on the bus were injured. The entire celebration came to a screeching halt. The desire to make a grand, attention-grabbing spectacle on the road ended up costing lives and turning a day of union into a day of separation and loss. These stories are profoundly sad. They serve as a stark reminder that life is incredibly fragile and that tragedy can strike even during our happiest moments. The couples and families in these stories were celebrating love and new beginnings, only to be confronted with the most devastating kind of loss. While these are extreme and rare cases, they underscore the importance of safety and responsibility, especially during large gatherings. From ensuring building safety to discouraging dangerous traditions like celebratory gunfire, being mindful of potential risks can help prevent such horrors. Our hearts go out to all the families who have had to endure such unimaginable pain. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please consider liking and subscribing for more content. Stay safe out there.